Hi, I'm Joel Bloom, president of New Jersey Institute of Technology. At NJIT, we believe that not only our students, but all citizens need to be informed about the issues facing higher education. As New Jersey's Science and Technology University, NJIT is proud to support the important programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation and their partners in public television.
Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by the Ollendorff Center, Meridian Health, AT&T, New Jersey Manufacturers Insurance Group, Auto Insurance, Homeowners Insurance, and Banking under the Principle of Stewardship, the law firm of Gibbons PC, Cohn Resnick, providing accounting, tax, and advisory services for more than 90 years, and by TD Bank. Promotional support provided by the Star Ledger and NJ.com, Everything Jersey.
This is One-on-One.
When you first heard that they were doing Charlie Rose and Gayle King, didn't you go, what?
People like laughing at others, so I don't mind if the other is me.
See, you go right into the character. That's what it is.
I'm bringing families together a half an hour each week. Man, I'm doing something special.
And so I do feel successful.
What is the role of Judaism as a religion? Here in the studio to explore that and other larger questions about religion and society are two experts on the subject. First, our friend Stephen Ollendorff, founder of the Ollendorff Center, and Rabbi Jack Bemporad, who joins us for the first of three very important conversations we'll be having with the help and support of the Ollendorff Center. Stephen, put in context for us. I mean, we started this conversation in a program you did with us in our Lincoln Center, our WNET Lincoln Center studio. First of all, the Ollendorff Center, put it in context, what is it?
The Ollendorff Center was designed to preserve Judaism because we feel it's in crisis. And if you look at the empirical numbers, both as religion within the other context of major religions and in the evidence within its own context, for example, there are about 1,100,000,000 Catholics. There are about 1,400,000,000 Muslims. There are less than 14 million Jews in the world, of which approximately 6 million are in Israel and approximately 5.4 million are in America. Before World War II, we had 5 million Jews in America. There was an immigration of 1.2 million Jews in America. Now we have less than those two sums together. We have an intermarriage rate of most probably exceeding 50%. We have a non-affiliation of people who consider themselves Jews in America who are not affiliated with any religious organization or congregation. So when you take all of those numbers together, Judaism as a religion is under severe stress.
A crisis?
It's a crisis in numbers as a religion. And why that's so critical is because unlike Israel, which is has all the Jewish institutions, if people are not supporting Judaism as a religion, if they're not supporting the synagogues, if they're not supporting those institutions, they will no longer exist, and so there won't be any home for Judaism as a religion, and therefore they won't be able to support rabbis, and I think Rabbi Bemporad will go into it later. So our whole goal
at the
Ollendorff Center with the cooperation of Rabbi Bemporad is to provide a meaningful spiritual experience for Jewish people in modern America today. And the extra goal, which I think I mentioned in your last program, is Rabbi Bemporad and I both are Holocaust refugees, and we are dedicated with all our might not to have Hitler win the war as a result of ignorance, indifference, and or lack of knowledge. And so that's why we are undertaking what we're doing.
Rabbi, I'm sure there are a lot of reasons for the dynamics that the situation, the crisis, as Stephen pointed out. But I'm going to just jump right into it.
Sure.
Stephen mentioned the Holocaust. For many Jews, people born Jewish, who do not practice the faith, is it fair to say that for a significant number of them, they say, how could I believe and practice Judaism given the Holocaust? Is that for many
You mean in terms of the problem of evil?
How could there be?
Why have Jews have suffered so much?
Yes. Is that too simplistic an explanation? I'm sure there are many other explanations, but particularly given your experience, your family's experience.
Well, you know, the interesting thing is that there are many people who have questioned, is there a God? Is God just? Why is there so much evil in the world? There's no question that that is predominantly of concern, and Jews have addressed themselves to that question. But the reality is that it's only a minority of Jews that actually say, I'm giving up Judaism because of the Holocaust or because Jews have suffered so much. I don't believe that.
What are the other reasons then? Because it's a crisis.
The real issue is that they are actually not clear that Judaism speaks to them, that it's credible, that it's authentic, that it's legitimate, that it really corresponds with the way they live their life or the things they believe. And so the real question, it seems to me, is to try to explain Judaism on a level that makes sense to them, where they can say, yes, it's clear, it's true, this is what I believe, this is why I believe it, and this is how I can practice it.
Is that where the 10 principles of Judaism come in?
Until we can clarify for people what really is it that's unique and central and basic about Judaism, and why it's compelling to you as a Jew. That becomes the question. Now, in the past, that really wasn't necessary. Most people said, well, all you have to do is learn how to be Jewish.
Learn how to be Jewish. What does that mean?
Well, how to read Hebrew, how to celebrate the holidays, how to practice Judaism. But the question of why be Jewish was hardly ever asked. Today, you have to ask the question, why should anyone want to be Jewish?
That's the deeper question.
That's a much more profound question. And here, for that, you need a rationale. You have to say, well, one of the reasons is because it teaches ethical principles, rational principles, spiritual principles that speak to you. And you can say, yes, that's exactly what I believe. And when they see that the teachings of Judaism is what, for example, one of the things that I think divides religions is that there are a number of religions that seek certainty. In other words, I want certainty. Judaism isn't like that. It's not a creedal religion. It doesn't have dogmas. What Judaism says, I want understanding. I want to be able to understand myself in the scheme of things. I want to understand how I fit into the world. I want to see that I'm more than flesh and bones, that I have some kind of a spiritual, ethical nature that connects me to something that transcends me. I have to ask questions of what am I here? What is the purpose of my existence? And those are questions that a spiritual, rational, ethical Judaism can address.
Stephen, as I listen to the rabbi, I ask myself, first of all, I'm fascinated by what you're saying. And by the way, if you're just joining us, we'll be doing a series of conversations with the rabbi, exploring not just the question of Judaism and as a religion and why it's in crisis and what is being done, but also the larger question of also why be religious at all for other faiths as well.
Right.
Why is that larger question important to the Ollendorff Center?
The reason I always was Jewish was because of the history of the Holocaust, and I felt an obligation that, as I said, I didn't want Hitler to win the war. However, and I'm not ritually oriented, but at the end of the day, I do believe in something greater than myself, a spirit greater than myself. And what we try to develop with the 10 principles is not only a spiritual...
The 10 principles of Judaism.
It has to pass certain tests. One of it is spirituality, but it had to be rational. In other words, can you get into a debate and defend that principle on its rationality in today's modern life? Can you say, this makes sense with knowing everything we know about technology, knowing everything we know about science, knowing everything that happened in the world? Do these principles make sense? Now, for example, the first principle, and I don't want to step on Jack, is in each of us is the spark of the divine.
Say that again. In each of us there is
the spark of the divine. So that establishes that each one is a unique individual, that he has an obligation, and there's a battle between good and evil, and it's up for him how he assesses that battle. And so it is an obligation imposed upon that person, knowing that there's something beyond just cold material facts, but there is this divine spirit with you, and how are you going to deal with it? So that brings a uniqueness to a person. I think most people do believe there's something beyond themselves. Now, how do you deal with it in a rational way? How do you deal with it so that it has a meaning in your life? Not that you have to go through 15,000 meaningless rituals. If you go to a ritual, why is that ritual there? Does it make sense in leading you to a more moralistic life, a more satisfying life, and having you fulfill your potential?
By the way, we'll actually, in future programs, the Rabbi, go through the 10 principles. Add a little bit more to what Stephen's saying about this first principle.
Well, I think that you cannot believe that a human being is strictly flesh and bones and strictly matter in motion. That a human being is addressed by a call to conscience, concerned about the good, the true, the beautiful, the holy. You can't take these elements away from being a human being. And to the extent that one asks oneself, well, what is really truth? What does it mean to lead a good life? How do I really make sense of my life so that I fit into the universe and I can justify my existence by saying I'm doing something that makes sense and that really is a contribution to mankind and to the common good and to humanity? You really have to see that you're more than just a biological, psychological, physical entity.
Rabbi, how do most who are Jewish but not practicing Judaism as a religion, when you talk to them, when you get that opportunity, how do most of them respond to what you're saying right now?
I think that those people would say, oh, you know, I never thought about that. It never occurred to me, for example, that this universe is orderly, that it has a sense of organization, of patterns, that you can't simply say it's a matter in motion or blind chance. And once I start asking the question, well, if there is an order to nature, if there is some element of creation, if there is some supreme being that somehow created the world and organized the world and puts us in the world and gives us a task in this world, then all of a sudden they begin to think of it differently. It's almost like there's a new center of reference.
I'm sorry for interrupting. There's an opportunity here.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So now, once you open that opportunity up, then the question comes, okay, now what's going to fill the gap? Okay, I need something more than just worrying about whether I have enough food or whether I have enough fun. I now know that I have to be devoted, as Steve says, to something greater. I have to feel part of something greater.
So in that spirit, Stephen, let me ask you, in the limited time we have left, what is your hope in terms of what we achieve in this series of conversations with the Rabbi, not just for those who happen to be Jewish and practicing or not practicing Judaism as a religion, but for everyone else?
I think there's a great change going on, demonstrated by the election of the new Pope, that I think people looking to religion for spiritual guidance, for moral guidance, for things that make sense. And to me, it has to make sense. It has to be rational. And I also think innate in us, there are certain characteristics and they didn't get there because we put them there. We didn't control it. I'll just give you a very quick story. My little grandson Graham, had a little assignment to do, and he couldn't finish it. We were only 4 years old, and my son finished it for him. And my grandson, when he handed it to the teacher, said, "I didn't do this assignment. My father did it." And it's that sense of ethics that he had innate in him. And if he was tempted one way or another, I think the role of religion is, which way do you go? And that it's within your power. And give us the guidance to do the right moral choices.
It's almost like calling a person back to a part of themselves that they weren't even aware of.
Yeah. Stephen, Rabbi, we're off to a very meaningful start. There's a long way to go. I want to thank you for helping us, and I look forward to those future conversations, Rabbi. Thank you, and thank you, Stephen. Stay with us. We'll be right back right after this.
If you would like more information on this program, or if you'd like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Visit us online at oneonone.org, or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD.
Hi, I'm Steve Adubato. We are coming to you from the Jersey Shore. I want to introduce a gentleman who knows a lot about the work going on in Seaside Heights. He is Mike Loundy, Director of Community Improvements in Seaside Heights, New Jersey. Good to see you, Mike.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Work is going on there. We hear what's happening. The boardwalk is behind us. It may be a cloudy day in July, but the boardwalk looks great.
Yeah, we've been very busy. We're working 24/7 here. We've done 2 years worth of work in 6 months.
How does that happen?
We hit the ground running quickly. We had a war room here in Seaside 2 days after the storm. It was the headquarters for the whole shore, everybody
Why?
on the beach.
What is it about Seaside Heights that makes it, you told our producers, it's the heart of the Jersey Shore? Why?
We feel that our surrounding communities feed off of us, and we feed off of them. Bricktown, Toms River, Ortley, Seaside Park. A lot of those folks that have nice homes, they come here to our town. And their tenants come to our town, and they enjoy our restaurants, everything we have to offer.
Well, Mike, let me ask you, this community, Seaside Heights, and your mayor, Mayor Akers?
Yes.
He's been a real leader in this effort. We've had him on our program, our sister program, Capital Report. You've seen this community come together, haven't you?
We've become one. People that didn't know each other, didn't used to speak, neighbors, competitors in business. We've all joined together to try to really pull together and get open and
a
help each other.
hurricane can do that?
Apparently it did. People that were arch enemies were coming together to try to help for the common good and our common goal, which is to get open. Seaside Heights, our budget is 65% tourist driven. So the 3,000 residents or so here benefit from our business community. We work together.
It's so funny, you work in the government here, right?
Yes.
But, you know, on a day like this, you know, it happens to be a cloudy day, which, again, compared to Sandy means nothing. But you guys are very sensitive to, dependent upon the weather.
We are. We're a beach. Who goes to the beach when it's raining or if there's a hurricane? 8 months ago, we were standing on this deck the morning of the hurricane, looking at the weather and the water coming up.
This deck?
Right here where
at the beachcomber?
Right where we're sitting.
Describe it for folks. Go ahead.
I was here about 6 a.m. You know, we had been prepping like we have for all the other hurricanes. We were ready. There's nothing else that we would do that we hadn't normally done. So I was up here with the owner of the beachcomber and some other businessmen getting ready to get out of the area. And we could tell 12 hours before the storm was coming in, the water was already coming up under the boardwalk. So it was, we were caught off guard how serious it was early, way before we were supposed to get the serious weather. So the water was very high. When I went to leave, 8 o'clock in the morning, I started to travel north in Ortley, and the water was already coming from the ocean to the bay across 35 at 8 in the morning.
So it's funny, you said we were ready, but you really weren't. And I don't mean that as a criticism.
No.
Could you have ever been ready for what happened?
You know, we're an island here. When the weather strikes, you're at the mercy of what happens. We're very low. We happen to be at the highest point here on the ocean. We're at level 15.
What does that mean?
It means we're 15 feet above sea level here. This is the highest point in our community, and it travels down. So all of our runoff, storm drainage and all that runs towards the bay, and it drops down. So the people on the bay side got hit significantly harder from the surge, from the flooding on that side. And of course, where we had breaches up here, we got hit also. You're sitting on a building. A lot of these buildings blocked the weather from going down the streets.
Blocked the weather?
Blocked the waves from coming down the streets. So it acted as almost like a dune system. So the part of our town that got hit the worst was the northern end that didn't have a lineup of buildings. And the waves and the water came crashing through, especially at the street ends. And I mean, by my office, a block from my office, we had 5 feet of sand, a full block in from the ocean.
You know something about real estate in the little time I have left. Talk to us about your view, your perspective on the real estate market here in Seaside Heights.
It's a double-edged sword. There's a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of folks, because the eyes of the world are on us for various reasons, between Jersey Shore and the ride being in the ocean, and everything that has happened to get us to today. There's a lot of eyes on us, and there's some fresh money coming in. The governor has been fantastic. Our local officials have been fantastic. And I think the fact that we've been getting the amount of play that we have, people realize Seaside Heights has a lot to offer. And we're very excited about what the future holds for us with a new boardwalk. Our boardwalk is 100% open. Our beaches are 100% open. Our businesses are 80% open. We have 1,300 hotel rooms. 1,200 of them are open now. We're really on the move, and we're very excited about what the future has for us.
It's a long way to go, but most of us who know this community well, who grew up here at the Jersey Shore, particularly in the summers, are amazed at how hard you and your colleagues have worked with a lot of help from a lot of people. So congratulations and good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you, and thank you for your support.
If you would like more information on this program, or if you'd like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Visit us online at oneonone.org, or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD.
We are pleased to be joined by Larry Downs, the Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of New Jersey Natural Gas. Good to see you, Larry.
I'm glad to be here, Steve. Thanks.
Part of our very special one-on-one coming together at the Jersey Shore. Most of these shoots are out on location down at the Jersey Shore, but we had Larry in the studio, so we want to take full advantage of this opportunity. Larry, most of our conversations are about public policy issues, about infrastructure issues, about dealing with underground issues and gas lines. But you're a member of this community. You live in the Monmouth County community. Your business is in the Monmouth County community. Talk about the impact after the shore and the kind of work your corporation has been doing in trying to be helpful to the citizens and the organizations restoring the shore.
Well, we have a part of our mission as an organization goes beyond just providing natural gas service. It's helping people in the community, and certainly in the aftermath of Sandy and all that went on, there was I think a special opportunity for us to reach out and work directly with the individuals who are affected by this, work with the organizations who are affected by it, because it was something that I don't think any of us had ever experienced before, and people needed help. That's really what it was all about.
You know, it's so interesting. Larry was one of his organization, his company was one of the first companies to jump in. The Hurricane Sandy New Jersey Relief Fund, Mary Pat Christie, the First Lady, organized that effort. She tells a story. She was sitting right here on this set, and I asked her how it started, and she said, you know how she says it? She says the governor gave her a call and said, listen, we need someone to head up this fund, and you're it. She immediately got on the phone, and actually people reached out in the corporate community and responded. Yes. Why did so many respond to that call?
Well, they saw the need. I mean, we all remember the images of the damage and devastation following the storm. And along with that was the impact on people's lives. And we knew that it was not only a question of financial support, which we did through the fund, but having our people involved in the communities to really help people. Because even today, there are still people, as we all know, that have been affected by this, and their lives will be affected by this for a long time.
Larry, make it clear, which communities, your area, your company serves how many people in which areas?
About 490,000 customers, but primarily Ocean County, Monmouth County, small piece of Morris. And I think an important point to be made here, you know, here we are almost, 8 or so months after this that went on. This was not something that was just isolated to one area of the shore. It was really the entire coastline that was affected. You know, we saw the images of the Manaloking Bridge and the new inlet, and we saw what happened to the roller coaster at Seaside. But there were people affected by this, all the way up and down the coastline, up to Union Beach and areas like that. And there's still issues they're dealing with today.
As a CEO, I mean, beyond the tremendous need to get the distribution system back in play, and we talked about that on our Raphael Purman, my co-anchor, and I talked to you about that on Capitol Report. Because that's an important, it's not just a public policy issue, it's a service issue, it's a quality of life issue.
That's exactly right.
But as a CEO, what responsibility do you feel you have at New Jersey Natural Gas to respond beyond that? You're dealing with that. Right. But as a corporate citizen, is there a real responsibility?
There's a real responsibility beyond the so-called pipes in the ground. I mean, that's really at the heart of everything we do, and the infrastructure has to be there to serve our customers. But the role that we play, you talk about quality of life, people's health and safety. That, in our view, goes beyond just investing in infrastructure, because people's ability to really succeed in life and deal with tragedies like Sandy is affected by what we do.
But what do you do? Do you say, okay, we have this pot of money and we're going to start contributing? Because there's so many nonprofits.
Absolutely.
And again, we talked about before, you don't want to start naming nonprofits because you're going to miss one and, why did you mention us and not the other? And that's real. But how do you decide who you're going to give the money to?
Well, what we try to look at is the areas that will have the greatest impact on people's lives. I mean, obviously in the aftermath of the hurricane, we were trying to support the Hurricane Sandy New Jersey Relief Fund. We did that by reaching out to our customers. We contributed our own dollars as well. But through our foundation, we're looking at things like education, which is obviously critical. for our citizens, what we will do in our service territory. Not only are we trying to invest in education, but our employees, my colleagues, are out there in the schools trying to work with individuals. We've got a program in Asbury Park, Project Venture, where we're actually got a mentoring program where we're trying to work with young people in the 7th and 8th grades, Asbury Park, Neptune, Lakewood, so that they can really get a sense of what the future holds for them. Now, I think a lot of that need was really accelerated in the wake of what went on with with Sandy.
Before I let you out of here, your own employees, how many employees do you have?
Right now we're about 900 in total.
I imagine a significant number of your employees were personally affected by Hurricane Sandy.
They were.
In your own organization, what do you do for them? What could you have done, and what do you do for them?
Well, what we did, their greatest need that we could serve was financially. So what we did was not only contributed company money, but also we gave other employees the opportunity to donate money to them. And I can't tell you how grateful they were for that. Our employees, the way that they were able to work throughout Hurricane Sandy, nothing sort of inspirational. There's certain things in life that concern for the human good takes over, and this was one of those.
The series is called One-on-One Coming Together at the Jersey Shore. You've been a part of Catholic Charities and other charities for a long time. It's an expression. You find it to be real? Coming together at the shore?
Yes, it is, because it's as I said, it's really about people and the needs that they have, and people helping other people. When you really look at the essential role of business, it's making a difference in the lives of others. And when these types of situations come along, there's no better opportunity to do just that.
Larry Downs, who is the chairman and CEO of New Jersey Natural Gas, thanks for joining us, and we continue to come together at the shore because the work is far from over. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating 25 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of One-on-One has been provided by the Ollendorff Center, Meridian Health, AT&T, New Jersey Manufacturers Insurance Group, the law firm of Gibbons PC, Cohn Resnick, and by TD Bank. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area. One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been produced in partnership with St. Joseph's Healthcare System. This program has been made possible in part by New Jersey Institute of Technology.
I think at NJIT there are a lot of smart students.
I came to NJIT for mechanical engineering because with in-state, it's one of probably the top 3 schools for engineering.
It sort of creates a friendly competition where you can learn from them.
It's a great academic school.
I feel I'm being challenged, but at the same time I love the classes I'm taking.
The atmosphere of being here is like being at an upstart company. It's that same kind of drive, that same kind of passion.